know if that'll work. Wow. All right, so the deepest zone on the lane that I ever play in a video is the comfortable zone, is where it's most comfortable from. As far as throwing it with my normal speed, my normal rev rate, not having to try to take something off of the ball, not trying to have to throw it harder. So this is normally where I run out of room with other stuff. So this ball is significantly stronger than the Mania or the Theorem Pearl. The track Criterion Hybrid is releasing on February 20th, and this one is different in some ways but familiar in others, and completely nutty as a whole. As I always say to get started, I'm a longtime Pro Shop guy, and I've uploaded nearly 2,000 videos with the goal of helping you know what you're buying so that you can waste less money and enjoy bowling more. This one's going to be a two-parter. This video is just the review, and then I'll have the live comm separately because there's a lot to talk about, and this ball ended up being an amazing kind of teaching and learning tool, so I just went with it, and this is what I ended up with. So if you like this, you'll definitely want to check out the live comm regardless of whether the ball ends up on your radar or not. We are, of course, at Royal Crest Lanes in Lawrence, Kansas on the Kegel Chromium Challenge pattern, 42 feet, 25.5 mils. The graph is linked in the description if you want all of the pattern details. For the ball details, same strong asymmetric Criterion MD core as the original at a 250 RG 052 differential and an 018 int diff, but instead of the QR12 cover with HK22C, we get super response with HK22C. It's the first time, as far as I can tell, that we've seen super response. When the Theorem Pearl came out, which is prime response with regular HK22, I made the comment that it didn't feel anything like the original Theorem, but acted like what I thought a shiny Criterion would act like. A couple short months later, and we actually have a shiny Criterion, which confused me at first because I didn't know how two strong shiny ASIMs that were likely going to shape the same were going to coexist. Now, while the Criterion Hybrid absolutely shapes identically to the Theorem Pearl, same hook set, hockey stick, defined directional shape, this thing is unrealistically strong for a shiny ball. Best way to explain it is a slightly more continuous hammer effect, or an archetype hybrid that shapes like a Theorem Pearl, which is completely unnecessary, but if you can't get this ball to hook and or finish, you need to spend more money on coaching and less money on bowling balls. Very strong and directional ball again, and I've said this before, but if I have to get up the back of something to get it down the lane, but also have to get around it to get it through the pins right, it's going to be difficult for me to manage, so I admittedly wasn't that sharp while filming. I've never been great at throwing the ball harder with either hand. I can throw it hard or I can get something on the ball. Both at the same time don't happen, so the problem here is really just a mismatch of ball to bowler. Now, directional isn't the problem. I like the original Criterion and the Theorem Pearl, love the intense mindset, but the combination of strength and quickness and being directional all at the same time is what the big challenge is for me. So it's just an overwhelming amount of ball reaction for my average speed. However, the hammer effect has been a very popular ball, and the archetype hybrid was fairly popular too. The effect wasn't great for me, and while I like the archetype, just too strong for me to throw, so while I regret not being able to put together a better effort in this video, it's all still information. Now, I threw the Theorem a lot, I've thrown the Black Widow Mania quite a bit already, threw the Intense Mindset a lot over the summer, etc. Either loved or are currently loving all of those. This one's just a big step up and is in that top tier of big shiny balls. So again, if you like the effect, archetype hybrid, exotic gem, this one's all over that territory. Or if you like any of the balls that I just mentioned, Theorem, Black Widow Mania, and want the same idea but just stronger, that's obviously the Criterion Hybrid. I think this ball is a little slower and slightly more continuous than the effect, like I said, but it's just shockingly strong for a shiny ball. It's difficult to figure out sometimes what angle to take in this kind of situation because I don't want my personal opinion or results clouding or influencing what you think or what you see in the ball reaction, but it's hard to hide. When I match up with something like a Black Widow Mania, I'm going to strike for days. If I don't, like with the hammer effect, it's just going to be rough, but you might have completely opposite experiences with those two balls. You might love the effect and not get along with the Mania. Plus, there's always an expected bias in ball reviews, so if I'm like, oh hey, I can't strike with this ball at all and had a miserable time filming, but that's just because I'm not matching up, so don't pay any attention to that. This is really a pretty good ball. You're just going to roll your eyes and turn off the video, even if that's 100% the truth. Now, on the flip side, if I strike for days with a Mania and realistically can't hide that, I also don't want you thinking, oh wow, that looks great for him, which means it'll look great for me too, even though super clean and flippy ASIMs suck for me. So, monologue aside, it's my observation that this ball fits somewhere in the middle, so allow me to explain what I mean. Again, it's very strong. It's not ultra responsive, but it's on the quicker side and rolls in the direction you rotate it. So if you've got drier conditions, slower speed, higher rev rate, get more up the back of the ball, combination of all those, probably should look somewhere else. However, if you have trouble getting something to both hook and finish, if you like using physical tricks to control your shapes and angles, or you get more around the ball, or again, a combination of all those things, this one should absolutely be on the radar. Bowling balls are like golf clubs. I find myself using and hitting my 7-iron a lot, even if I should be in a 6 or an 8. It's just comfortable for me. Might be the same for you, might be different. Asking if one ball is better than another is like asking if one club is better than another. It all comes down to the situation and the player. If you're 70 years old, you might be hitting driver on a 180-yard par 3, but if you're Bryson DeChambeau, you're hitting a 9-iron. All of this rambling probably wasn't necessary, but I threw 6 or 7 games with this ball and had plenty of footage I'm trying to let roll through here. Plus, again, I have a lot of good stuff about physical adjustments and shot shapes in the LiveCom section. Code ROSEDAL10 at checkout will knock 10% off your purchases at CoolWick outside of Fast Track or Quick Ship jerseys, which are already very aggressively priced. Same discount code for 3D printed ball cups and spinners from card prints, plus there's a discount link for 10% off a Nexus backpack, their new journal, or other products, and finally an email address for custom handcrafted items like pins, bottle openers, and stoppers, and even bowls made out of old bowling balls. All kinds of other great and helpful things in the description. Also take a look at my YouTube memberships where for just $5 a month you can get all my videos early and ad-free. A comparison to the Theorem Pearl is up first, but I'm also going to show it against the original Criterion as well to help illustrate why the Theorem Pearl and Criterion both fit better for me than the Criterion Hybrid, despite all 3 balls being somewhat similar. It's a little bit of a teaching/learning thing here at the same time. Right away you see the similarity and why I said the Theorem Pearl reminded me much more of a shiny Criterion than the original Theorem, because it just looks and acts like a blue Criterion Hybrid. However, the Theorem Pearl is definitely the weaker and cleaner ball. See how I can stay slower with it, I can hit it, I can roll it, I don't have to throw it so hard, it just glides and then picks up. I even have to slow down and roll it more from the deepest zone where it needs help to get back from there, but the Criterion Hybrid, you can now see, slows down faster. When someone says a ball slows down faster, they literally mean the friction the ball is creating is making it slow down. It's like spinning your tires on snow versus dry road. The tires on the Criterion Hybrid dig more than the tires on the Theorem Pearl, so it's going to create more friction and slow down faster than the Theorem Pearl, which both helps it hook more, but it also gives it more time on the lane to hook more. It's kind of a dual effect. Even though they're virtually identically rolling balls from an overall shape perspective, the Criterion Hybrid is stronger, it rolls heavier, slows down faster, and as a result, hooks earlier and more, despite still kind of being in that clean and sharp reaction category. You can even see that I'm able to maintain my wrist position with the Theorem Pearl because I can go on ahead and hit it or roll it because it's easier down the lane. But with the Criterion Hybrid, I'm having to break my wrist a little to take some revs off and add some speed. In deeper, and the Criterion is still moving strong, but the Theorem Pearl actually needs a little help getting back to the pocket. This is why it's critical to have a sharp eye for reaction and watch absolutely everything, because otherwise most people are just going to look at the 2 balls and go, well, that's dumb. They're just the same ball but different colors. It can be hard to see on videos sometimes, but the Criterion Hybrid is quite a bit stronger than the Theorem Pearl in a couple different ways. Now we'll take a look at the original Criterion, because you might wonder, well, why does a sanded solid version of a ball work out, but the shiny one doesn't? Remember, first of all, that these 2 balls don't share the same cover, so while the Criterion has QR12 with HK22 and the strong and dynamic cohesion additive, the Criterion Hybrid swaps out QR12 for super response. Don't know exactly what that means or what the difference is on paper, but you're seeing the sanded Criterion almost get easier length than the shiny Hybrid, and while the Hybrid is slightly sharper, the original isn't necessarily slow itself. This first of all reinforces what I said about the Theorem Pearl, because if you'd have told me it was a Criterion Pearl instead, I'd have never known the difference, because that's exactly what it looks like. While the Criterion is stronger than the Theorem Pearl, it's still somewhat comfortable for me to throw because it's also a little smoother down lane, and that's the key that makes the shape work out so that I can still catch it at the bottom and don't really have to throw it that much harder. It also doesn't roll quite as heavy or slow down as much as the Criterion Hybrid does either, which is kind of odd, so it seems to me like super response is definitely a step up from QR12. The website does have this line for the Hybrid, bigger mid lane and back end than any other pro performance ball the brand has ever seen. While I'm not sure it's necessarily bigger on the back end, the Theorem and Theorem Pearl are faster in my opinion, the mid lane is pretty obvious. I know mid lane has become a giant cliche. It seems like everyone says it in every review because that's the typical staffer quote, right? Clean through the fronts, revs up strong in the mid lane, and then turns sideways down lane. But it's actually a thing, and this is another great illustration of what that means because the Criterion Hybrid obviously gets more done in the mid lane than either the Theorem Pearl or the Criterion. This is what that means, and this is what that looks like, and while it's hard to see sometimes on video, it's more easily felt when you're throwing the ball yourself. I'll apologize if this drug on and got boring, but this is what I do, and there was so much good stuff to talk about that I just couldn't leave it sitting there. Remember, this one releases on February 20th with the Hypnotize, Piranha Power Core Pearl, and Stealth Mode. The Piranha is the only ball that I won't have a video for, but never to worry, you'll still be able to find plenty of videos for it out there. Don't forget to check the description before you get out of here, and remember for this one that the live comm is a separate video, but I put that video up with this one, plus there's a link in the description that will take you straight to it either way. This video was brought to you by Panda Bear Productions. We put the in bowling. Thanks for watching, and may the strikes be with you.